There's no real agenda. I'm not trying to tell you anything that you don't know. Just trying to keep needling at us all to bring us into presence, into a deeper presence. So just being here, meeting it all without a story. Is it possible in the midst of all that is so unknown to just be here in presence and openness? Is it possible just for a while to nourish that deeper part of us by staying in the presence that allows everything to just be as it is? Is there any way we can let fear, anxiety, anger, or grief flow of its own accord without us grabbing it and turning it into our story? While we all wait patiently or impatiently for something to change, many of us are exploring deeper and deeper, sometimes outside in the world of stories and sometimes inside in our inner world. In some ways, it sounds as though it should be simple, just being here. And we are just here, but our mind is not. Distraction has set in, preoccupation with some mental activity or the future possibility or the past that still lingers on. But there is such a freedom in just being here. It's not complicated. It's clean and clear. I've discovered for myself that the present moment is a portal to the eternal. There is a doorway that opens when we are not caught on the endless horizontal plane of past and future. At that intersection where now is, discovered only in presence, a door opens and we enter a divine kingdom with all of its treasures. Suddenly, everything has value. Everything radiates its presence and its beauty, and everything comes alive. In presence, everything is alive. It's simple, and yet it's so elusive. Why is that? That's the question. Why is that? So, going on, in soft presence, the best way to know presence, in fact, the only way to know presence, is to feel it in the body and the being, not through the mind or intellect. They can only describe it, but still you will not feel it. And once you have tasted it, you really begin to see when it's not there, when you're distracted by thought or emotion, lost in imagination or dreams, caught in the trigger of trouble. Presence cannot be forced. You cannot demand it. You can only really fall into it as though it was always there and you just arrived at it. To be able to stay silent and still, watching the mechanism of one's own mind as it projects its desires and fears onto the world, as it seeks to choose one over the other, this over that, right over wrong, good over bad, or bad over good. To be able to see this is the end of one's lostness in duality. This is the great freedom we seek, but it can only be discovered when the seeking itself is seen. It is the work of a lifetime. So I think it's taken me all of my life to be able to become present. I can't believe it. I'm 60. It's taken me that long. It's taken me 25 years of seeking or unraveling, I would call it. I wasn't seeking. I didn't have any notion of seeking when I began to unravel. back in England in the mid-90s. All I knew was that I was tortured by emotion, old emotion, anger and rage and pain and sorrow, and and I was just such a mess, a disjointed, fragmented human being, addicted to alcohol, addicted to thought, addicted to anxiety, addicted to fear, addicted to dysfunctionality. I actually had no idea of the spiritual world at all, because a lot of the spiritual world has become quite contemporary. We've only discovered it recently, not everybody, but a lot of us. And so I spent time unraveling, but still there was no presence. There was just this discontent, inability to really drop into to a relaxed presence that I have now, that I've fallen into, that seems to grow every day, or the more I'm in it. But it really wasn't like that, and so I understand how elusive it can be. I understand how tenacious the mind is. I understand how, what the kind of things that stand in the way. And presence is not male or female. It's not something that men get and women don't get. Although there are leanings a little bit in some ways, but it's still something that is such an asset to be able to be here without any story, without any story running around anywhere that overlays. There's no overlay of the emptiness that you arrive with, and it's so palpable and so simple, and yet why is it so difficult? Why is it so difficult? Is it because the mind is we give our allegiance? That was what came up at the weekend, right? We give our allegiance to the mind, and because mind has dominated, mind and its best friend, emotion, has kind of run the show for so long, that we somehow expect or hope or lean into mind to offer the solution to our search for something that mind can't solve. It's this conundrum. All we seem to know, because that's the way we've been conditioned, is mind's answer. And the mind says, I know what to do. I'll meditate really hard. I'll sit in meditation and I'll endure all the pain, and I'll focus, which can help sometimes. But then the mind tends to hijack the process, and it starts struggling with what is. It starts doing battle with the noises that it hears, or the irritation in the body, or the memory comes up, or some agitation happens, and there it is. I've got to fight that. So you're already still locked in the battle, and that's not it. So it's like coming into the body. That helps. But most, I've noticed also that, because mine was like that as well, the body is agitated. It's not really the body that's agitated, it's the mind that's agitated. But mind lives in body to a certain extent, or body reflects mind. And so body is agitated. So even the body, with its nervous system, can't quite settle down. So, you know, I am a great proponent of working on body, emotion, mind, and spirit, not just going for the spiritual, because so many people need to work a little bit on the body, at least to get the nervous system a little bit relaxed, because when the nervous system relaxes, then the mind relaxes a bit, and the mind relaxes a bit, the nervous system relaxes a bit. You can't be present unless you're relaxed. Relaxation is a key component of presence, right? It just makes sense, because otherwise it's concentration. Concentration is not presence, not the kind of presence that we're talking about, which is just the openness of being. There's so many different ways of talking about this. There's so many different, you know, metaphors. There's so many different pointers to talk about this presence. And I mean, it doesn't on a certain level, to the conventional sort of mind, who cares whether presence is there? Who cares about it or not? But without presence, we're lost. Without being able to be here with each other, with ourselves, with what's going on, with the work that we do, with a child, with a dog, in the store, we're lost in the dream immediately, aren't we? You go into the store and you're, you know, ragged from the thoughts that are going on, and then the insecurities arise or the stories arise, and you're lost. You're not there. That's what I mean. I spent most of my life not there. It's like I've only been alive for the last 5 years, because I've only like, oh, well, I'm awake all the time. There isn't a time in my day that I'm not awake, that, you know, distracted. Distraction doesn't happen anymore, because everything came home to itself. But I truly remember, and I do think, being able to be here without a story is one of the most valuable and powerful gifts that we can give ourselves, that we can inhabit. But also, and that this is one of the key points, it's such a gift to be able to give people, to give your presence to other people, so that they're left with just you, without reacting, without overlaying. I mean, people don't know what to do with it. Some people don't know how to react to my presence, you know, because the games are gone, the entanglement is gone, the little twists and turns that we play of social etiquettes, they're gone. They don't enter. So we sort of meet cleanly. And I think that presence, that openness, is such a gift to give the world, because the world is a dream. The world is a dream of stories, of the imagination and emotion. And it goes on and on and on and on. And here we are, born into it, born into the dream. And it takes us over without us ever realizing it. Suddenly, well, not suddenly, but gradually, we're in a dream that might work for a while, and then it might not work for a while. It stops working. For so many people, the dream stops working. It busts. It sort of breaks down. It doesn't offer the happiness that it seemed to suggest it would deliver. But yet we're still stuck in the dream. And in the dream, we're not present. There's no presence. There can be no presence in the dream. There can be glimpses of presence. There can be moments of clarity, moments of love. And I'm not like completely anti-dream. It's not like it's the worst place in the world. It's just like, you have to be asleep to be in it. It's a dream. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so you can once you do start to wake up, and I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. It's like once you start the process of, let's call it waking up, or seeing clearly, or ending the story, or seeing your thoughts, or looking at it in some sort of way, or being able to step out of it through grace or through luck or through, hard work, or it just happens. Suddenly you see how convoluted it is, or how entangled it is, how it takes you over, how it's got everybody cast under its spell. And once it stops serving you, then you're on, then the game is on, right? Then the mission is on to pierce the veil, to find the peace that passeth all understanding, to go deeper, to find this presence, to find this openness, to find this. And yes, we're back to the weekend word, surrender. That was the word that came so much at the weekend, was surrender. And surrender is presence. Surrender is openness, is presence. They're all exactly the same thing, because they're all the places, one place, with no story. With no story. Is it possible for us to drop our stories? The story of who I am, the story of what's happened to me in the past, the story that I make up about the world, to be able to see clearly that actually I'm making up a story about myself in the world. And it might have served me once when I was more overwhelmed by the dream, but actually it doesn't serve me anymore. And that sounds like difficult, to move from being one who tells a story to one who doesn't, to one who has no story, no story maker. Even the story maker dissolves. And yet you've built a life around yourself that's got all these elements of the past story. You try and wake up or become storyless, a place that still reminds you, still has all the old overhangs of the story itself. So it gets complicated. It gets entangled. It seems to, and I'm. It took me a long time. It took me hard work and a lot of grace and a lot of surrender to a moda to actually to kind of bring me to be able to release all aspects of my imagination, all fears of what's going to happen. Because I was, as I said at the weekend, there's a delicate nervous system in me. Fear of this, fear of that, and fear of everything, So it sort of forged me. I think the warriors that we are, or that we want to become, or that we yearn to be, you have to throw yourself a bit into some aspects of the fire. You have to, we're a bit. My teacher, my first teacher was, as I've told you before, a wrathful, pretty wild, shamanic, triple Aries, fire sign, Irish monster. And I've never met anybody quite like him. And he ran these camps in Wales, in Great Britain. And I discovered him in 1995 and spent 2 years with him. And he wasn't one of the modern day non-dual teachers who are very nice, and spirituality is all really quite pleasant, and everybody sits around over a cup of tea and discusses existential stuff. He was not like that. This guy was ferocious. He was like one of the old, I think, the old wrathful, you know, warriors from, like, I don't know, some other time, some other part of the world or something like that. And he was magical. He was mysterious, but he was dangerous as well in some ways. He hit me a few times, beat me a couple of times, and I got some of the bruises still because I was his musician as well. I didn't like played so softly. He wanted me to play more wild music. So he'd get his stick out, his drums, beating drumstick, and he'd hit me on the back and say, play more. But he had this extraordinary power, and he just changed the. I've got stories and stories and stories about that guy. He's just changed the course of my life. But the reason I'm saying that is because he threw me in the fire, not literally, although we did a lot of fire ceremonies and pet lodges and all that sort of stuff. So I got burned as well quite a few times. But the metaphorical Rumi-esque, because he was a big fan of Rumi, you know, tearing your heart out almost, you know, it was very powerful, visceral body stuff, really. And outside of society, outside of the rules, outside of health and safety regulations and like that. So he you know, he that's hence some of the wildness that you feel in me, or that you see in me, the great irreverence. I'm not interested in the sanitized spirituality. I like it, you know. So going back, I say sometimes you have to throw yourself in the fire. You have to almost sacrifice something. You have to make a commitment. You have to show up, you know, because it takes courage. It takes this path of presence, this path of openness, this path of surrender. We want it to be easy. Of course, we want it to be easy. We want everything to be easy. I want everything to be easy, but everything's not easy. And breaking through your resistances and, you know, dissolving some of those tenacious stories that we have, some of the tenacious grips, you know, that these old things have on us. You know, it gives value and pays dividends to like get pretty ferocious about it. No, I'm not. You know, it's not just an easy route to become present. And that's not anger or anything like that. It's the opposite. It's just making a commitment, making your heart's commitment, or your soul's commitment, or your deepest, the commitment from the deepest, that you know, that I'm not going to be run by stories or thoughts that no longer actually serve me. Because that's part of what happens. You know, the old conditioned self goes on and on and on, even when you've realized that you don't need it anymore. It served its purpose because it's a purpose. There's a value in everything. Everything is good. Everything is okay. And when we're young, we adopt certain ways of being, certain protective mechanisms and certain thoughts and beliefs and ways of being, because mostly we needed to protect ourselves from the world that was coming at us in order to stay alive and to, you know, usually, not always, but usually dysfunctional circumstances where the people who were responsible for our conditioning didn't actually know what they were doing. Did the best that they could, but they didn't know it because they were carrying wounds, and each generation carrying wounds that gets handed on. So we build our protections, and we build our personalities, and we build our little games of ways of coping with, and then we carry those on, and they go into our 20s and 30s and 40s, and then we start older, and it's like, oh my God, do I still have to be subject to the same things that I developed when I was like 8 or 10 or 15 or whatever? But they're tenacious, like got suckers on them. So it takes a commitment to be able to stand naked. And that's what I got to in my own life, that actually I thought that I needed to wear a coat of protection in the world. I actually thought that I did. And I did, in a way, because I thought that I was broken in some sort of way. And then eventually I learned that I could be naked. And nothing's going to happen. My greatest strength is that I'm naked. My greatest strength is that nakedness is invincibility, because there's nothing to protect. This is just it. It's the same all the way through Kavi. There's nothing in here that is protect worthy, because it's all just exactly the same thing. So this kind of nakedness is to me is a return to innocence. Is the return to innocence that is apparently the awakened state, but to me is just the return to innocence, which is just being here. It's just another way of saying the same thing, I guess. Just being here with this, in this moment, with you, and you. Nothing. No overlay. No mind wrapping itself around it. Not even any heart beating, thinking, what should I do and what should I say in the next moment and the next moment? Nothing. And there's such a liberation in that. So it goes back to what I said about, I became convinced, and I am convinced that the present moment is a doorway, is like a portal somehow to something eternal, to the eternal essence things, to life itself. And we get stuck on this horizontal plane, past there and future there, and all we do is move along it with these occasional moments in either love or in a beautiful sunset or some psychedelic drugs or being beaten by a shaman on the back or something like that, of being here. Suddenly it brings us into presence, and there's maybe silence and just this kind of, I don't know what it is, an awe or something like that. And there it is on the intersection between the horizontal and the vertical. That point there of openness and presence. And now, that's now. And I honestly believe in my heart that now is so tender and so open and so free that it actually opens up like a wormhole into bliss, where everything comes alive, everything is vibrant, juicy and real and here and eternal. And what else is there to do or want or search for? Or and that brings, in terms of bringing it to an end, bringing what I'm talking about to a conclusion. That means that I don't care what's going on in the world. What world? What world is that? It's like there's a tenderness, or there's a continual stream that's flowing through into that goes with me, or I go with it into the supermarket, into the store, into the cafe, it goes with me. That presence that is beautiful. I mean, I must admit, I hadn't realized just how beautiful it is. And it goes with me, or I go with everywhere with it. And I'm talking to a guy in the cafe, and it's like, oh, there it is. My little face lights up with the juiciness of now, the juiciness of now. And if he's or she is available in some sort of way, you can light up the world. For a moment, the world lights up. Not with stories about, oh yeah, this is terrible, or that's great, or have you got a cappuccino? It's like something else lights up the world. And that just like starts this thing going on. Our sheer presence lights up the world a little bit. We have that capacity. And that's not, I really am not blowing my own trumpet. I'm just trying to use myself as an example, because I remember just how far away from presence I was. Mad, a mess. We were so dysfunctionally corrupted that I had no idea that there was another me, that there was a real me way below, kind of calling me to come. I had no idea. When when I got really ill, I got ill for 10 years, and I had no idea. I was just pursuing something, keeping on going, because I didn't know what else to do. To keep on going, to keep on healing, to keep on exploring, to keep on working at myself, on and on and on. No idea that I was going to come home to a relaxed Kavi. I thought, no way would I ever have dreamed that I would be able to reach a state of depth as a mature human being who could just sit in that ordinary naturalness. Seems so it's like wow, let's take heart. If you're not, it's entirely within reach. Entirely within reach. Especially at this time. Especially at this time, because things are changing. And I think we're changing, or we're getting the opportunity to change. And these explorations that we can do now while we're at home, and things are changing and bubbling around, and there's so many unknowns in the frequencies of the world, and all the systems and the structures and the powers and the lies and the untruths, and nobody knows what's going on. And it's so easy to get caught in the, this fizz of the world and the drama of the world. It's exactly the same as our own drama. Drama of the world, drama of the mind, drama of the world, drama of the mind. But the wisdom says, no, let's deepen with this. Get it deeper, get it deeper. Use the experience, even with all its fear, or because of all its fear, as a catalyst for a deeper transformation, if possible, if you're called to it.